Hi everyone, my name is Brian Breach, and I'm a failure. I don't mean failure in the sense of the word that I'm a failure at life, like this guy here. I mean failure in the sense of the word that since being fired from my last 9 to 5 in 2008, I have failed more times than I've ever succeeded, but it's within those failures that I managed to find these little successes and little wins. Now, what's important to know when you go out on your own is that you want to make sure you quickly get yourself inside the independent mindset, because you're not going to have a boss telling you what to do, and you're going to need to delegate responsibility to yourself and very quickly. Now, just a quick disclaimer, I've always liked to use humor in order to cope with some of my past serious situations in life. So today and today only, I give you guys full permission to laugh at my pain as I take you on the journey of what got me inside the independent mindset and how I survived all these years without a 9 to 5. So my journey started off back in New York, where I was born to an extremely busy dad and a very abusive mom, as you could tell by the fear and panic on me and my sister's face there. It got so bad around the house that my dad actually planted these audio cassette tapes in order to catch the abuse going on so he could try to use them in the custody battle. My mom was arrested on interstate trafficking charges. She was kind of like the Jewish Griselda Blanco. Maybe not that serious, but it did happen. And unfortunately, there was a period of time where she was cheating on my dad and she contracted HIV, which she would find out many years later. Now, she ends up getting custody somehow, and she takes us down to Florida, where she meets a man named Jordan. Jordan was kind of like a stepdad to me. I hadn't seen him in quite some time. In a couple weeks, my mom was in the hospital. So my grandmother comes up to me and she hands me a newspaper, and she says, "Brian, I want you to read this newspaper." And basically what it said was that Jordan had been murdered in some kind of deal gone wrong, and that's how I found out that I'd never see him again. So this was around the time that I was to have my bar mitzvah. And what does it mean when you have a bar mitzvah as a little Jewish kid? It basically means that you figuratively are supposed to become a man. Well, directly from my bar mitzvah, I went straight to the hospital to say my goodbyes to my mom pretty much one last time again. And not only did I figuratively have to become a man, I literally had to become a man, because I was losing a parent and I had to grow up extremely quick. So needless to say, these were very stressful days. My dad ends up getting custody of me and my sister, where he's dead broke at the time. He takes us to an apartment in Pembroke Pines where he's sleeping on the floor. So fast forward a little bit of time, he meets a woman, they get married, we move into her house. Within the first month, she has a grand mal seizure, and they find a golf ball sized tumor behind her eye. They have to perform brain surgery on her. Shortly after, my dad gets taken out on a stretcher one night because of his bad back. They perform surgery on him, and the hospital ends up giving him a staph infection and almost kills him, and he's out of work for 9 months. I lost about 5 or 6 other family members around this time as well. So needless to say, these were very crazy times. Why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because you don't need to go through these astronomical situations in life in order to get yourself inside the independent mindset. I've always been a strong believer in the quote by George Bernard Shaw, where he says, "Life isn't about finding yourself, life is about creating yourself." An example of that would be if you're in a relationship, something small, and your partner is always complaining that you don't listen. You don't need to go through 50 relationships to listen. You just need to start listening. Wake up and be a better listener. Now, I'm sure there's plenty of people in this room right now that currently work your conventional 9 to 5, and I'm sure there's plenty of people that work in 9 to 5 that would prefer to work for themselves and be your own boss. Now, I'm not knocking 9 to 5s whatsoever. They're great, and they get you a steady paycheck and all that good stuff, but there's certain things that you cannot get out of your conventional 9 to 5 that you get when you're working for yourself. For example, when you go into work every day, they typically cap you at a certain amount of money. Even if you're making 6 figures, they usually put up a wall. Okay. Number 2, you're going to work every day, and what's happening? You're making somebody else rich, and you're not chasing your own dreams. And some of you may know this one. One of the best feelings in the world when you work for yourself is that feeling of freedom. When you wake up every morning and you don't have to go into an actual job. It's actually incredible. My journey inside the working world started when I was 11 years old. And when I was 13, I was hired as a dishwasher, and they fired me because I would not save the uneaten olives and tomatoes off people's plates. Not happening. So I had some decent morals as a kid, believe it or not. Now, if you don't know me as Brian Breach through social media or the artist, you may know me as the guy that used to knock on your door and try to sell you coupon books, and you sick the dogs on me. Now, one of the best jobs, in my opinion, I ever had, but one of the most hated in the entire country, I was a manager at a telemarketing agency. And if you can't tell which one I am, I'm the one on the right with the Jufro. Yeah. I did all the managerial stuff, the hiring, the firing, the payroll. It was great. So it got me some decent experience for when it was my time to go out on my own. My last 9 to 5, 2004 to 2008, where I was fired from. But in 2006, I unfortunately got into a little bit of legal trouble. So when 2008 came, what happened was I knew I was going to get fired because I was focused on music a lot at the time, and they still loved me anyway, and they recommended I go to a different department within the same building. So as I sat down with a guy who knew me for 4 years, he, for some reason, runs my background anyway, he would not hire me. Not only would he not hire me, I tried to get jobs at 10 other places, nobody would hire me. So I was literally thrown to the wolves and forced to work for myself because of what happened in 2006. Now, I don't want to stand up here and be a complete hypocrite. I didn't always do the right thing to stay afloat, but I definitely always tried. Now, one of my first legit ventures that I went out on, and this was a recommendation from my best friend, my mentor, and like a business partner, Lex One. He tells me, we're doing a ton of hip-hop shows around this time. We need to stop waiting for people to book us on these shows, and we need to start booking ourselves. So I thought that was an absolutely incredible idea. So I started looking for who I can book that would bring a draw to Miami. Some of you remember this guy. His name is Cannabis. So I ended up booking Cannabis. They wanted $1,500, and I only had $900. So just like that, I booked him. I negotiated him down. Not only did I book Cannabis, but I got to open up for him. I got to put my face as big as him on the flyer, and I made $3,000 that night. It was absolutely incredible. But where I failed was, as I kept throwing these hip-hop shows in South Florida, I underestimated the South Florida hip-hop market, and I realized I wasn't going to be able to sustain myself and make the kind of money I needed to make. Now, here's the craziest part. Some of the biggest shows that I've ever done, standing on stage with Nas or NERD or standing on stage with Big Boy, I made $0 off every single one of these shows. But I learned something. I learned that opportunity creates more opportunity. I'm sure there's plenty of people in this room right now that measure success based off how much money you make. And if you're one of those people like I used to be, as of today, I want you to stop measuring success based off how much money you make, because money does not always equate to success. And what you're going to learn when you go out on your own is, once you start to create a buzz for yourself, people will chase you, and it will make your life so much easier. So the next venture we decided to go out on, we decided to start an independent label called GTPS. And guys, I thought I was going to be the next P. Diddy of bad boy. I swear, can't stop, won't stop. Didn't quite work out like that. Now, I failed because I couldn't figure out how to monetize the label the way I wanted, but I succeeded because I learned how to, or we learned how to build social media, not only for ourselves, but for other people, which would go on and save me in the future. So we needed tangible money in our hands. So we sat down and we had our monthly Menchie's meeting like we always do. And my business partner had some printing background, and he had access to a 30,000 square foot warehouse that was just sitting there. And just like that, we started up GTPS Printing. This place was like the miniature version of Rob Dyrdek's Fantasy Factory, but in the hood. So we painted the walls, we built a studio, we recorded out of there, we shot commercials, we shot major artist videos. It was absolutely incredible. You want to know where we failed? We failed something so small as not signing a lease. And in 9 months, that building sold and we were out of there. So guys, get your paperwork together. Now, within every failure comes some kind of little win and little success. This was around the time that I learned to always be networking and always be making new friends. We ended up hiring an intern named Dwayne. He came along, and I was looking for someone to help me build my clothing line. He had the artistic ability, I had the ideas, and just like that, I started Psyche Clothing. Psyche Clothing was amazing. I had a nice 2-year run. I had some online sales. I had it in a couple stores, and it was great. But where I failed was, if you guys ever heard the expression, scared money don't make no money, not that I was scared, I don't want to admit to that, but I had a lot of projects going on, so I didn't know where to put my money. So as you start putting little amounts of money into a business, what happens? You only take baby steps, and that's kind of what happened. But I succeeded, in my opinion, because I learned the business inside and out. So now when I get back into it, I know exactly where to put my money. Simple as that. Now, the average millionaire, as of today, has 7 sources of income, and I've always been a strong believer of that. If you don't understand why, this is why. If you have one income over here of 40,000, and you have 5 little ones that equal 40, if this one falls off, you still have 5 holding you up, and the key is to stay afloat long enough until something finally hits, and that's always been the key. Now, like the great modern-day philosopher of our time, 50 Cent says, 50 says slow dough is better than no dough, for sure. And what he means by that is having little amounts of money is better than having no amount of money coming in. That always resonated with me. So I tried to figure out how I can make more money and extra income on the side. So as my business started rolling in extra money, I needed to figure that out. So I sat down, and I wanted to do something I love. I just didn't want to do anything. So a called my photographer, I took a headshot, and just like that, I got booked in like 3 TV shows and a movie. And if you look closely, that red arrow, that's me walking and skateboarding past Zac Efron like 50 times in that tape. I was so good as an extra that they stopped production because they wanted me to give Zac Efron and The Rock acting lessons. Kidding. Come on, guys. As I move forward, we ended up starting a social media business. Now, that social media business was Wynwood Social Club. This is my 10-year anniversary of not having a job, and I no longer have a 30,000 square foot warehouse anymore. I have a little office out of my house. I have my business partner Lex, One, and Jenny. And it only took me 10 years of failing and failing and failing and failing and failing to finally have a business where I can feel comfortable enough, move forward, sustain myself, and chase my dreams. Now, just to recap some of the things that we went over here today. How to survive without a job through failure. Make sure you get yourself into the independent mindset very quickly. Make yourself who you want to be in this life. Do not measure success based off the money you make. Create a buzz and people will come to you. Always have multiple sources of income. Always be networking because you never know when the next opportunity is going to come. And guys, this is 2018. Make sure you grow your social media because opportunity comes off there every single day. I hope something that I said here today resonated with one of you or all of you, and I have faith in every single one of you that when it's your time to go out on your own, you'll be able to do it and 20 times better than I ever did. Thank you.